Okay, so we've already learned how to create a database with create database, database name. We've learned how to create tables, create table, table name, put in our attributes, metadata about those, identify primary keys, maybe foreign keys as well. So our next step is to talk about creating views. What is a view? So a view is basically a peek into the tables. So imagine the view being the view from a window, where all of the outside is our entire database or even just a table, and we're just looking at a subset of all the things. So this could be an entire table. It could be a small subset of a table. It could be columns handpicked from multiple tables together. A lot of variety in that. The big thing is that this is not the tables themselves. So there, you can think of it as a virtual table that is computed from a query, which means that if you delete a view, you don't delete the table. We're not making any extra data in here. We're not reproducing the data. It's just us pulling the data to get a look at it, which means that's very resource light. And if you delete the table or delete the query, it doesn't delete the table. So there's a separation there. So they're very, very useful. So the advantages, so data independence. So if the database structure is changed, the user will still see the same view. What does that mean? So if your database got so big, like the scope exceeded what you needed from Access, for example, because Access is kind of meant for small scale stuff like what we're doing for the class, but you wouldn't run Amazon off of Access. Not even Microsoft uses Access like that. So what you can do is if you have a view for the users actually see, you can actually migrate your database from Access to something else like Oracle, and then like move that, then update the view without disrupting the user experience, which is awesome. You can use views to customize for different users. So for example, and I've used the example of the employee survey for my company before, where you have HR that gets one view and you have managers that have a much smaller view. They're not allowed to see a lot of the data. They can't see people's data that are outside of their group, and they're probably not going to be able to see very sensitive data, right? They won't be allowed to connect demographic data with the survey results, because then they can start targeting employees that gave them bad reviews, right? Like you need to prevent that in a company. And so we do a lot of these kind of security measures, protecting our people from that by limiting what they can see. Likewise, in HR, like, you don't let people outside of HR see things like social security numbers and salaries. So it's really, really important to be able to limit that. In Access, there's not a separation between views and queries. And oddly enough, Access can't even run the query for create view. So I can't actually do this demo for you because it won't do it, but you should be able to still handle this, because it is, if you are in something other than Access, I'm assuming things like Oracle, you should know how to do this if you're saying that you're SQL competent. But it's pretty simple. It's very, very similar to our create tables, right? Because we have create, so we're making something, view, creating a view rather than table. You have the name of the thing. Here we see the, in parentheses, name abbreviation. So if you look at the rows below, and I know we haven't gotten into selects and froms and stuff like that, but from If you remember that my states table that we created, that's the table name. So from the my states table, we're going to select my name and my code and use those as the what we want to see, except for we're going to rename them because my name and my code are great for the database column names for us, for our purposes, but probably not so much for the users. So this is a very user-friendly, user-centric type of thing. So instead of our weird database names, we're going to say name and abbreviation. So you have something like Washington, WA, instead of, you know, my name, my code. What in the world does that mean? Okay, so and the top part there is kind of like create view, table name, what we just talked through. Below, you can see a slightly more advanced example where we have multiple tables being brought in. So the where, instead of saying my states, from, instead of just my states, we have multiple tables going on, which this is an example. We don't actually have these tables in the little one that we were creating. You can see the where has some equal signs and things that look like they could be maybe keys. And the select, again, we're seeing an order, like what we want in there. So yeah, again, something I can't demo, but you should be able to read and follow along these. And when we get through the basic part of the next phase where we're doing the selects, wheres, and froms, this will make more sense. Okay,